how we're going to do this tonight is that we'll start off with a meditation where we're really letting go and opening, and then I will talk about this topic of what's happening tonight. So let's start with our letting go. And you can have your eyes open or closed. It really doesn't matter, because you're like relaxing deeply. So you can begin with letting go of any tension that's in your body, because any tension that's in our body is a holding of a separate self. It's a way of us holding and separating. So we let go of any tension in our body. And then begin letting go of everything that you know and think about yourself. So everything that you think you know, I should even say that you think you know about yourself, and all your beliefs about yourself. So every bit of identity, what you've done in the world, what you've done in the past, what you do now, what you don't do now, any regrets, any pride in what you've done, any labels that you have for yourself, let it all go. Your history, you were married, you weren't married, you have children, you don't have children, what's going on with your children, all of it gone. What happened in your family, your mother and father, what happened when you were growing up, gone, wiped clean, no history. You're bringing nothing, and we can bring nothing with us when we're on this journey. We have to go naked. We have to let go of everything, peel off all the layers, become very permeable, not solid, not anything. So you're letting go of all of that. And then all of your beliefs about the world, your opinions, how you see things, how things should be going, how they shouldn't be going, it's all gone. You're letting go of that you're a woman, that you're a man, that you're an anything, that you're a person, that you're older, that you're younger. It's all gone. You're peeling away everything so that what is left is only this, the essence of what you are, only the delightful fragrance is left, the fragrance of what you are. That's all there is. Just a whiff. Just a whiff of what you've been. Nothing is held. It's all transparent. And we're going to rest here as this empty, spacious, alive, loving presence. We're going to rest as this for a little while. Okay, in your own time, you can slowly let your eyes open. Okay. So, the topic tonight is, whose thoughts are these? And I'm going to start off with, there's quite a bit of research out there on is consciousness actually in the mind, or is it beyond the mind, and our minds are inside of consciousness? that is consciousness actually a bigger thing than just the small consciousness in our minds? And I can talk. There's a little article that you'll get after this that I wrote about this, and so you'll get the references to that. But there's a guy named Fenwick who wrote an article that was in, I think, Psychology Today. That was his research was based on near-death experiences and how consciousness is not actually located in the brain, since sometimes people are brain dead and they have lots of experiences in their death experience. Oh, and Presti, I think his name is, his research is on past life memories, which would also indicate that something else is going on. And Goran, and I don't remember what his was based on, but it's in the article that you will get. So with that in mind, my exploration, because I began exploring what is going on here, where are these thoughts coming from, and because I'm also a psychotherapist, and I'm working with people, and they're all grappling with the thoughts that show up in their mind. But all my life I grappled with the thoughts that would show up in my mind, and we would often say, all of us at some point would say, I don't want to have these thoughts. I don't like these thoughts. Why do I have to have them? And so if we were actually making them up and creating them, if we had any say in it, we wouldn't do it. So where are they coming from? So I began to investigate. So here's my investigation. There are 3 categories of thoughts that roll through our mind. The first category comes from our wiring and our conditioning. And so our wiring, some of our wiring, the Enneagram points to our wiring, and other models will point to that we're actually wired in a certain way, that we come into the world with a kind of propensity to, you could call it it's in our DNA, however you want to think about it, but we have a way of thinking, a way of feeling, a way of approaching the world that is not necessarily totally unique to us if it falls into a category, but some of it is unique. It's in our wiring. And then the rest of it is conditioning. So when there are thoughts that come into the mind that seem like they have to be ours because they're about my past, they're about things that I heard said about me, they're my memories, so of course they're mine. And for most of our life, until we enter a spiritual journey, we might actually even believe that we are our thoughts, that is what we are. All the thoughts in our mind points to that's me. Now we also might feel like all these emotions that show up are also me. And of course we also believe that these forms, these physical forms, these are me. This is me. So here, this, and all these emotions, and this body that you're looking at, that's what I am. And it seems very concrete and solid. That's what I am. But then you begin to think, well, what if consciousness, which is like the thoughts, what if my mind is a portal receiving thoughts? And some of these thoughts actually create these emotions. So if the thoughts are coming in through a portal and they're not necessarily mine, I'm not making them anyway, and they're creating these emotions, then the emotions are not necessarily me either. And there's also, we know that nothing is solid. These bodies aren't solid. That the molecules and what makes up the body is actually connected to all this stuff around me, And if I'm with other people, there's a mixing of these molecules, and nobody is really a separate being. It's just an illusion. So our conditioning and our wiring are what cause the kinds of thoughts that come in that seem so familiar. But we're not actually creating them, because we don't sit there and say, I think I will have a thought that has to do with that. I don't really like myself. I think I'll have that thought right now. We don't do that. It shows up, oh, you're stupid. Why did you do that? And where did that come from? Did it come from, does it sound like my mother's voice, my father's? Where does it come from? So anyway, so there's a whole category of thoughts that seem like we created them. They are about us. But if there's this bigger consciousness and all this stuff is floating in there, and we're gonna have a propensity to resonate more with the ones we know, and they will kind of fall into place and come in there, So that's one category of thoughts. There's another category of thoughts that kind of seem like they're kind of on the same vibrational level as your own personal thoughts, if you're just thinking about, a TV show you saw yesterday, or that you should go buy bread tomorrow, or, they're kind of mundane. Maybe I would call them mundane. But then you have these thoughts that come in that are also kind of mundane, but they're really not familiar. Or they're not from your conditioning or your wiring. An example of that might be you're just sort of sitting in your comfortable chair and you have the thought, oh, wonder what my sister is doing. And the phone rings and it's your sister. So, it comes from your history, but did you just pick up on your sister thinking about you? Or did she pick up on you? Like, what just happened there? But then there's other random things. Like, really random. Like a thought about maybe even like seeing someone in your mind that you don't even know them. Or some random thought about, who knows what. Something to cook for dinner that you hadn't, it's not even something that you like, but some food, or something about politics, or some random thing floats in there. So there's a whole bunch of thoughts that are just floating around in consciousness that you are a receiver, and it just sort of floats in there. You pick it up. Could be your neighbor's having a thought like that. Could be just somebody driving by your house was having a whole bunch of thoughts, and something comes in. And maybe there's it resonates a little bit with us in some way, and that's why that one came in and the other millions of them didn't. But they are just floating around, and we receive that. So, that's why I say it's kind of on the same level as our conditioning. It's not deep, it's not profound, we don't really care about it. And then there are other thoughts that are kind of like guidance. And you recognize that because it's not from your conditioning, and it's not from your wiring, and it's not just random stuff out there. It's a real profound, what I would call spiritual guidance. Just comes in. Maybe you should go listen to that teacher that you heard about, a year ago. What was that name? Oh yeah, that's what that name is. Maybe you should do that. Or some of them that came to me, so I can just speak to that. I had had this thought. I mean, it was sort of like the beginning of a certain phase of my whole spiritual journey. I was sitting on the couch, and I was giving myself my own retreat. My ex-husband, who was my husband at the time, was off on a business conference, and I thought, yay, I have a week to myself. I'm going to meditate and journal and, you know, and cancel all my clients. I'm just like off for the week, and I'm going to do my own retreat right here in my living room. So I'm sitting on my couch in the middle of this kind of retreat that I'm doing, and the thought comes in, and the thought was, something is dreaming you. And I was like, no. What? I mean, it was just sort of like, huh? How weird. Why would I think that? Where did that come from? And it was sort of like, did you ever have the experience of sitting somewhere quietly in your house and you hear and something calls your name? You're like, Riley! Or Liz. Did you ever have that? It looks like Riley. You think so? Okay. You know, I mean, it's sort of like, you know, or there might be a word like, what? And I'm like, huh? What? Who said that? It was like that. It was like these words came, something is dreaming you. It's like, oh, why? What does that mean? I don't even know. I don't know what to do with it. But it like opened something in me, because I had no clue what that might mean. I do now, but I didn't then. And but a deeper exploration was opened by those words that came in. They weren't from my conditioning. They weren't from my wiring. They weren't random thoughts floating around in the ethers. It was some sort of guidance that actually pretty much changed my life. I was on a quote spiritual retreat, but there was no teacher or teaching, and I was just sitting around meditating. So those are the guidance, and there's been others, but there's like a kind of guidance that you receive, and you also receive it in dreams. You know, when you have one of those dreams that is like, it's not the gobbledygook stuff. You know, and you know that here perfect example in dreams. You have the conditioning dreams, like, oh, I had another dream about my father again, and you know, like, yeah, you know, or I had a dream about that friend that died several years ago, and she was telling me something really important. Like, that's guidance. Or the random things that are just floating around where you're dreaming about someone that you've never seen before, and they're eating dinner. And like, what's the point of that? But, you know, it's just around, and this is someone eating dinner, and I'm watching them. You know? And so in your sleep, those are great examples of those three categories that I'm talking about. So when what this investigation did for me, though, was free me of identifying or taking seriously the first two categories of thoughts. The only thoughts that I take seriously are the ones that feel like they're guidance. And there's usually not a personal emotion that goes with it. They're never negative. They're never critical. They're never judgmental. They're anywhere from neutral to some sort of heightened feeling. But it's not personal. It's not like, oh, that makes me feel personally sad. You know, it's not personal. It's on a whole other level. I notice those. The rest of them, they can slide right by. And so what I love to share with people is to let your thoughts slide by. Because you have that conditioning and you have that wiring, you're not going to stop the thoughts. You're not going to. They're not going to stop. They quiet down when we don't pay attention to them. The less energy we give them, they begin to fade. They live on our energy. Our attention is their food. So if we don't feed them, they starve to death and they shrivel away and they go away. But not completely, because we still have this wiring, and we still are a portal and a receptor for the thoughts that are floating around. But we don't have to grab on. If you notice, the other thing that helped me a lot was noticing the amount of thoughts that flow through that you don't really care about. You don't even notice them. I should put the food away. I should wash those dishes. I should and I need to go shopping tomorrow. I'm gonna buy that. Maybe and I watched that thing there, and I could just, the blog thing that I was gonna, and he said this, and I didn't like that when he said that, and and then it was and they're all floating, and then suddenly a thought comes by that says, what's wrong with you? I'm gonna grab that one. Oh yeah. What's wrong with me? Well, what's wrong with me? And blah, 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 blah. I have lots of thoughts about that. But you didn't grab all the other ones. So let them all roll by, march by, and they're all going, and you don't grab any. You don't grab any of them. And you begin to see them as just kind of an energetic dance that's going on. And if you don't grab them, they don't create the emotional reaction inside your body. So now you're freer of the emotions too. It gets quiet in here. There are emotions that are not caused by thoughts, that are real and natural. And you know them when someone close to you dies. You feel it. It's not a thought. It's not a concept. There's sadness. Now, if you think about it, you can create more sadness or anger or frustration, but if you just feel that, there will be loss and sadness, but there's no extra meaning to it, and it doesn't come from thinking. There's other kinds of emotions that are just pure and natural and just show up not from a thought. But most of our emotions are caused by how we think about things. So if we're letting the emotions roll by, then if we're letting the thoughts roll by, then the emotions clear. And our bodies get more relaxed. Let me just think about this for a moment. I think that's what I was wanting to talk about tonight.